think we're ready to start. I think it's 7 o'clock, so we'll get started. Pledge allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First up, comments from citizens. Seeing none, we will close that portion of it.
Your invite didn't bear fruit.
Oh, wait. Oh, all right. Electric department. Activity report is in our packet. Any comments or questions?
Do we have any issues with the weather and the electric lines or anything?
Nope.
None?
Yeah.
We shouldn't talk about stuff like that till after the weather passes.
Right.
Yeah,
You believe in jinxes.
I mean,
nor with the water
I
line.
like to see Jim, I like the way he thinks.
Nor with the water lines for that.
Right.
Is what I understand. Well, Monday was a little different story.
There we go.
yeah, don't even talk about it. We shouldn't even have had a meeting.
I need to draw his phone numbers.
Meeting adjourned.
Okay, next up, scrap metal bids.
Just to let you know that Mark has a bunch of scrap wire and other parts, and I think you dumped in a few pieces of metal from the water department, and we put it in the paper, and the bids will be opened 2 weeks from Thursday.
Right.
Well, the Thursday before the regular board meeting.
Okay.
So there will be something in the council packets to give the results of that.
And we can make a decision.
And if they can get the snow off at all, they can
Right.
come and take it.
Sounds good. All right. Other under electric department. Hearing none. Move on to water and sewer. Activity report is in our packet. Any comments or questions? How many manholes and valves and stuff have you raised or lowered as a result of our GIS?
We've raised quite a few manholes. Some of them were actually, we knew they were there, but they were in spots that we really weren't concerned. We had other ones we could get to, but we went ahead and raised to make sure we were there. So I've still got a lot out like the sawmill. I'm gonna have to raise all those now because everything is came up except for manholes. So, but there's been a bunch. Valves, we were pretty close on, but manholes was a lot of work.
Okay.
Were you able to find the ones at the greenhouse yet? Behind the greenhouse?
Got one behind the, yeah, we got all of them behind the greenhouse. There's 4 on Sweeney's property.
Okay.
We dug a hole the other day at 2 spots, big enough for them to backhoe in, never found them. I cannot find those, and there's one right here between Fenton and Pringers. You know where it's at, just needs to be raised, probably about that deep.
Okay.
And one on no chance, as far as I know, that's it.
Okay.
That's pretty good then.
Yeah.
I'm pretty pleased with that, but I'd still like to find those in that field, or at least
Right.
a couple of them.
Yeah, well, they were deliberately buried because he didn't want to hit them with his.
I don't think he's going to.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other under water and sewer? Hearing none, we will move on. Public Works. There is an activity report in our packet. Any questions or comments? No. Good. Next up is streets, and we have a list of streets that Lynn has passed out. Recommended paving.
Little expert. We were unable to do the segment of Jefferson Street between railroad tracks, and to do that would be expensive enough that it would not leave a significant amount of money for overlays between now and about the end of October.
Okay.
So my recommendation, if you don't have disagreements, when I prepare the budget, the money that will be in the transportation sales tax fund, plus the money we get from the county, as their voluntary revenue sharing of their transportation sales tax. That being separate from the statutory requirement they gotta give us because they don't have a property tax for transportation anymore. That's gonna be about $190,000. And so Phil and I have done surveys in the past, these probably 6 months old, but there are some streets that really do need work. And I would hate to postpone it for 2 years. My recommendation is Jefferson Street gets put off for 2 years. I've talked to MFA and Chance, and they're not upset about that.
Well, the overlay that we did this last time seems to be holding up pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I really have no problem with that.
Good. Anyway, we have done in past years fairly significant amount of overlay work west of the tracks. And now there's some other parts of town that need it, particularly Mitchell, Clayton, Porter, Ash, Wesley, parts of Orchard Street, south of Lakeview, and then a couple others like North Allen that are not in good shape and have fairly high traffic. So this is a preliminary list. The 2014 column comes out if we allow $15,000 for miscellaneous sidewalk construction, and we really do need to do more of that. You know, try and find a way to address that. Makes a pretty good dent in the worst of the streets around.
Yeah.
And if we look at that, then we can finish the rest of major overlay work and do Jefferson Street in the 2 years following, 15 and 16. And by then, we can devote a little bit less to maintenance each year as far as overlays, major maintenance, and go back to picking some more streets to actually do construction on. The rest of Lakeview out to 124, or Booth Street out to the swimming pool, which we already have a set of plans for.
We've been a little lag on our maintenance, our overlays for several years now. I think it's time we
We
catch up.
spent
a little bit.
4 years paying for Lakeview and
Right.
Columbia,
Yeah.
and then this year on Whistler. So my recommendation is to do overlays, and these are a suggested list, but if you look at things between now and the end of March and say, well, I don't think this one is important as one that I've identified someplace else, or if you want to take some from the 2015 and move them over and shift something else back to deferred, please let me know so that we can put together the bid package.
The other thing is, come spring, depends on what winter does, we may have a couple that we have to shoot for the top of the list, like Cox did one year, just
Yeah.
blew apart on us, so.
I mean, I really have no problem with the list you got, but I do think that we'll look at what the freeze and thaw does in the spring, and you know, like you say, there always could be something pop up.
I would like you to take, if not, for no other reason, looking at these gives you a basis that you know personally the condition of the street, and when a constituent asks you why you're doing his street instead of my street, you can say, I believe that his street needs work more. But you'll also be able to say that we're not ignoring your street, and within a finite period of time, we will get to it.
All right. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Just a curiosity question, what's the first column of numbers?
That's the width of the street.
Yeah.
18, 21.
Width of the street,
Yeah.
length of the street, and,
Thickness of that?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have, it's on the spreadsheet, but it's not what I printed off, that there's a little formula that equals how many tons that is for that volume.
So what's this?
That's a change.
Okay.
Yeah, you take the first three columns, gives you an estimate as close as we really need for bidding purposes of the size of the project. It gives you the tonnage, which is the fourth column, and then the fifth column, sixth column, and seventh column are the dollar figures based on last year's asphalt bids.
Okay.
Well, not last year, 2 years ago. Interestingly enough, I don't think asphalt's been going up that much lately, so. It's
You're
a
just talking
fair,
about this top,
That's 2014, the number for
Yeah.
2015.
yeah,
The top one
the
is-
top right-hand corner is
Rough estimates, really.
what we haven't paid Christine in her contract, plus the bid price that we didn't pick up for the work between the tracks. So that would be likely a 2015 project. Or you could say defer a second year and go back and do all these overlay projects. See, that's 2015 and on. And I'm sure that weather and other facts will intervene, and you gotta look at it every year.
If what we did out there would hold up through 2015, I would say that
Yeah.
Jefferson could probably wait another year. If it falls apart in the meantime, then maybe we want to move it ahead of the other, the second
Move it
overlay.
up on the list.
Yeah.
So, just, now that I know that there just doesn't seem to be a disagreement in setting overlays as a priority, we'll just have to pick which overlays to do.
Okay, good. Sounds good. Next up, sanitation.
We didn't pick up trash today.
I've got the email on that.
Um,
Columbia didn't either.
No,
We're not aware of anybody who did.
Okay.
All the trash companies, everybody was shut down, so.
Did they even open the landfill?
I don't think they did.
We're gonna try tomorrow. We'll probably catch up with double routes. But we may not start at 7 o'clock. We may go a little bit earlier.
You're gonna run Monday route tomorrow then?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Next is storm sewer. Anything on storm sewer? No issues at this point? Any other under public works?
One. Mr. Moore contacted me and wanted to know a certain part of Rodney Griffin Street that's beyond Adams Street. You know,
Great.
where the barricade is at. There's about 40, 50 feet
Yeah.
of a stub, and he'd like to park his car there as a park and ride area rather than going down, I guess, to the Bicentennial Park area. He could probably fit 2 cars in there,
Yes.
and you mentioned it. You sound like he's contacting.
No, he hasn't, but I know what you're talking about.
It's feasible. I don't know. You don't often push the snow into that area, do you?
We have at times. If we get a lot of snow, we'll push it up in there sometimes just so we don't, keep dragging around the corner.
When you push it up, do you leave enough room to park?
Depends on how big a snow we have. I mean, that's,
Well, I mean, that's
yeah.
the citizens.
Well, if we don't vacate
Hazard.
the streets, and he's willing to work with us on snow removal, I really wouldn't have any problem with it at all. Matter of fact, I'd almost be inclined to vacate part of that if that's.
Where's it located?
Yeah.
But that may not be feasible either, depends upon.
Well, if
and
it's
I
vacated.
surveyed that, but I don't remember how the lot splits are on there.
It's well beyond the last current driveway and beyond the last likely parcel that would be
Okay.
a house. But we're talking right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And
the
I
only
haven't
thing
thought-
down there is the garage.
Right.
Yeah, but it
His
could be a house.
driveway's,
Yes.
yeah, back, so.
And I have not spoken to Chief Dungeon. I thought he might be here tonight. But I'm inclined to say, at least on an experimental basis, be my guess. I can't see that anybody that's a neighbor would be upset about it.
No, I can't imagine.
And
The only
except
problem,
for snow removal, I can't see where it has any effect on us whatsoever.
well, the only problem as far as vacating it is concerned is that might not be in his best interest because then half of them would go to the other side of the street also, for those lots.
Yep.
And that might be at least one.
I don't think we need to go through the
Yeah.
difficulty of vacating anything. It's just a matter of use. Does the city or anybody object to the parking there? I suspect it's been done informally in the past.
Probably. I parked in there before when I was surveying, so. No, it's been done, so.
Yeah.
Other than snow removal, I mean, it wouldn't affect us.
Okay.
I'll check with the chief before I give an okay, but we can, if something comes up and it doesn't work out, we haven't invested anything, we just made,
Yeah.
I don't know where his right is going to be. You know, for a while, we had people at Bicentennial Park, because it was a bus, they came and picked them up, they all worked at shelter or something. And I don't think that's the case, so I don't know, is he gonna step across the ditch and get picked up on 124, which doesn't strike me as being particularly safe, or is there somebody else that lives in the neighborhood?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check with Dungeon and then we'll.
Okay, any other? Yes, we do. Red flag policy report.
Annually, as per our policy and federal regulation, I'm supposed to make a report to the elected officials about security of protected and private customer information. And that's the emphasis. After talking to staff, we are not aware of any loss of private customer information or any attempt to access that information. We'll review the current policy, are not recommending any changes.
Okay,
Okay,
Conclusion of report.
thank you.
sounds good, Lee.
As may arise.
I have another report that I learned about today, so I was fortunate. There is a state law that requires us to be open to people who want to generate power through solar and windmills and stuff like that. And if they generate at any given time more than they use, we're supposed to buy it back.
Yes.
And it's supposed to be at the price we charge them, which sucks because it has no relevancy to what, you know, they generate it in prime time and we pay, if we were on demand rates, we would be paying extra for that rather than the blended average rate. That, be that as may, we have in the city code a section that allows for the city to let customers do what is known as net metering. And we're supposed to notify our customers of that possibility once a year. We've done in the spring newsletter.
Okay.
And in the meanwhile, I'm supposed to report to you annually the total number of customer-owned generation units tied to our distribution system. 0.
Okay.
The total estimated generating capacity of those units, 0. And the total estimated net kilowatt hours received from customer generators, 0.
Okay.
That is the conclusion of my report.
I understand that Ameren is bumping up against the maximum of what they are required to reimburse customers for, and so they are looking for a way to, because there's no real policy, but they're looking, working with the PSC to make sure that they don't have to pay out more than what the law requires them to pay out, because they are bumping up against the generation amount that was capped. So,
Well,
we're obviously not at that point.
we, it might make sense, given that we have one-size-fits-all rates that include commercial users. Some people willing to make very large investments might find it economically feasible, as we were discussing while you guys were preparing for the meeting. Our rates are low enough that the payback period for installing windmills or solar panels the prospect of selling surplus back to the city makes absolutely no sense. I mean, paybacks are 20 years, 30 years, depending on whether they're getting any sort of federal tax credits from that. And so that's kept people from wanting to do it. Another part is that if you allow them, as you have to under state law, you can require certain protective devices
Right.
on there so that if you have problems with your line and the relay closes and the person has his generation going and you got somebody working on the line, you don't want his
Feed that.
power coming
Right.
back onto your line and injuring your workers. We're supposed to have lockout and tag out, but
Yeah.
you know, you're doing pole to pole, and you're not looking for somebody's service line necessarily to be connected. So there are ways to lock that out. The customer who wants the service has to pay for it, and it isn't cheap.
No, it's not.
And we likely need to make one change in our public utilities chapter that follows recent revisions to state law that says that you can require that, but you have to finance it and allow the customer up to 12 months back that charge. It still isn't economically feasible, but I think I need to make a change in the ordinance to incorporate that language.
Sounds good. Okay. Anything else under Anthony Rice?
I didn't get the operating statement until late this afternoon, so I don't have any recommendations on the general fund budget as yet.
Okay.
Try for next week to give you preliminary. Nothing seems to have changed on any utility budgets that will be different from the sort of overview I gave you in the past. And general fund, right now, we're looking at perhaps 2 used police cars, Hearst tool for the fire department. It's jaws of life.
Okay.
Perhaps some railroad crossing nets, I don't know. Depends on, I think we need to have someone on hand for the next time that the railroad comes through and gives us 3 days' notice.
Right, yeah.
You can't order them and get them in, but we can't install them on our own. It'll just be a matter of, at some appropriate time, having them available. Because
We look at
the ones that are,
concrete, or
huh?
we look at going with someone with concrete, or?
Yeah, the ones that are wood, as we found out last time, they won't, they've been changed out once, they won't take another change out. Think about roof over the sand storage, but I think that may not come about. Our work on the storm sewer underneath the parking lot,
Take precedent.
well, it does, and, since we haven't been able to examine it yet, I don't know what that's gonna entail, and we still have the remaining part of Miles Street ditch. So there'll be some amount of project for storm drainage, but I can't recommend what yet. I'm sure we are going to get a request for assistance for the Civil War reenactment. And it may be a rather substantial request, since all their fundraisers have gone.
Bust.
The Noah's flood was probably worse, but they had very bad luck. And so I'll wait and let them make the request, but it may be rather substantial.
But that also brings a fair amount of tax dollars to town, with people coming to town too.
It does.
It does.
Yeah, people buy stuff here. That's tax dollars.
Last time I saw one, it looked like they were all camping out there, but
Well, there's still a lot of tourists that will stop through town and eat at our restaurants and buy things at the stores. You'll see a boost in the use.
We have folks.
Yeah.
in this year's budget, we still have a pickup truck for the street department that we've postponed for most of the year. And Phil's looking prices for that. And looking at heavy equipment, we could have, maybe several years ago, either done the motor grader or the front end loader, but we don't use the motor grader that much, so it's stayed in relatively good shape, and we can keep pushing it back. And we're taking a closer look at the front end loader as far as replacing it and what we can get as a trade-in, and what the current price is. And talking to Larry, he's also asking for another officer.
All right.
And I'm not at a stage yet to know what's gonna be available to any of those.
Mhm.
And not having job point anymore, I would sort of like to be able to try to squeeze one or two guys in as full-time temporary for maybe 2 months or 3 months in the summer to help with sidewalk boring.
Right. Yeah.
Because we never really get around. Every time we set up a project, somebody's sick, somebody's on vacation, somebody's in a class, you name it, and we can't marshal our full crew.
Yeah.
And striping.
Well, yes, striping and curb and gutter replacement.
Yeah.
Have the money budgeted, you don't have the manpower.
Right.
So those are things I'm sort of looking at, and if you have projects in mind,
Bring them up.
bring them up early, because otherwise,
True.
other projects will speak for that. Okay, 7:30.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Real quick, I just wanted to, extend to everyone that I hope they all had a great Christmas and New Year's holidays. I did receive a couple of emails and texts regarding someone's opinion of not having enough cinders or something spread out at stop signs.
We don't use cinders.
I emailed them back. I said, look, we do our best to keep the streets safe and passable. And people need to realize that in inclement weather, bad weather, they need to slow down. So I drove around town several times and I had no problems with stopping or starting. You just gotta take it easy.
Some of them want all the numbers.
Right. And, people just need to realize that we do our best with what we have. And
At this temperature, nothing.
I appreciate the work that you all did, the overtime you put in for moving the snow and clearing the streets. So, that's all I have. Thank you.
For the record, as far as that goes, it might be noted that, in the paper that, the blades aren't put all the way down because of manholes, water valves.
No, they're down, they just, we don't use as plows as heavy as like the state does for that reason.
And there's offsets in the pavement where there's cracks and stuff, and you hit those at any kind of speed, you tear something up, whether it's the snow plow or the street.
That's what we use lighter plows than the state does, because otherwise it'll rip everything out.
Yeah.
So
We
what you're
have-
saying is the plow's right there.
We have not,
He says not.
No,
we have not used cinders for a great number of years because of citizen complaints.
We don't use, we use salt seed.
We do use them, well, I guess we use them on some perimeter streets
Yeah, we don't use
that don't have houses on them. But we do salt and sand and calcium chloride, and if the temperature get up to 20 degrees or so, maybe it'll start working. but
Exactly, at the temperature.
It's not
that's-
gonna
Right.
Not much we can do right now.
Yeah.
And I've driven the streets many times in the last couple of days. They're passable. They're really easy to drive around on, because we don't have any hills.
Right.
It is exactly our story and a half hour today.
And are we at a point to put the advertisement out
For,
for,
We already have.
it did it go
I
out?
made the motion.
it's out,
Okay.
yes.
You got anything back on it?
We have 2 applicants already.
Oh, good. All right. Do we have a second for the motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're done. Good night.